Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Elon Musk recently spoke at the Satellite 2020 conference and had some really interesting insights around SpaceX, Starlink, their revenue potential, and plenty more. So in this video, I'm going to look at a few clips from that interview and add a little bit of commentary where I think it's relevant. Without further ado, let's dive in.
The whole purpose of SpaceX is really to help make life multiplanetary. But the revenue potential of launching satellites, servicing the space station and whatnot, that's, taps out around $3 billion a year. But I think providing broadband is more like an order of magnitude more than that, probably $30 billion a year, as a rough approximation.
This is fascinating to hear for a couple of reasons. The first being that Starlink itself has the potential to do more than 10 times the revenue that SpaceX is able to generate from launches. Just for comparison's sake, Tesla itself, the entire company in 2019, did less than $30 billion of revenue. Something to think about.
And we're still probably below 5% at that point. So it's not like, I want to be clear, it's not like Starlink is some huge threat to telcos. I want to be super clear, it is not. In fact, it will be helpful to telcos because Starlink will serve the hardest to serve customers that telcos otherwise have trouble doing with landlines or even with cell radio stations, with cell towers. 5G is great for high density situations like being here in DC or New York, San Francisco, that kind of thing. 5G is great for high density situations, but it's actually not great for the countryside. For rural areas, it's not great. You need range, and so any kind of sparse environment, 5G is really not well suited. But it's great for city dense city situations. So Starlink will effectively serve the 3 or 4% hardest to reach customers for telcos or people who simply have no connectivity right now.
It's easy to overlook the implications of these numbers, but we can actually use this to reverse engineer just on average what a typical Starlink customer might be paying for service every month. There's roughly 4 billion people who today have internet access. If we take the lower number, just 3% of 4 billion, we're looking at 120 million potential Starlink customers. If we divide $30 billion in revenue by 120 million customers, we're looking at approximately $250 per year per customer, just on average, which works out to a little bit over $20 a month for access to Starlink internet. Let me know in the comments if I'm too high and I've missed something obvious, but seems to me like Starlink on average, probably you're looking about $20-25 a month. And if this is the case, and we already know third world countries, developing nations at the moment have terrible internet infrastructure, it doesn't make economic sense to dig holes in the ground and run power lines when you can't even feed your population. So I understand, but if this is the case, then the market for Starlink is going to be enormous, and the people that it's going to give access to are the ones that need it most.
Or the connectivity is really bad. So I think it will be actually helpful and take a significant load off the traditional telcos. It should be a good experience because it'll be very low latency. And we're targeting latency below 20 milliseconds. So somebody could play a fast response video game at a competitive level. Right. Like that's the threshold for the latency.
I'm not surprised this is a requirement. Elon himself is an avid gamer, and in fact, many years ago, he used to play competitively too in tournaments.
The bandwidth is a very complex question, but let's just say somebody will be able to watch high-def movies, play video games, and do all the things they want to do without noticing speed.
Right.
And then the challenge for anything that is space-based is that the size of the cell is gigantic. So it's like I said, it's great for very low to maybe mediums sort of sparsity situations, but it's not good for high density situations. We'll have some small number of customers in LA, but we can't do a lot of customers in LA because the bandwidth per cell is simply not high enough.
These comments are adding a little bit of weight to the idea that this is predominantly going to be a service for developing countries and also rural areas, not so much for densely populated cities.
What does the equipment on the ground look like for this?
So the ground equipment just looks like, well, I think it's, like I said, I think it looks like a UFO on a stick. Mm-hmm. So at least the version 1 of the user terminal will actually have actuators on it so that it can improve the pointing accuracy. So you don't have to. It's very important that you don't need a specialist to install. The goal is that the instructions in the box there's just 2 instructions and they can be done in either order. Point at sky, plug in. You do it either order, sequence doesn't matter, and it will work.
Plug and play.
Literally, but also point at sky. You can't see the satellites. If you can't see the satellites, it can't see you.
For anybody considering investing in the Starlink IPO, I think this will be hugely important news as well. Some of you have done the homework already know, but this simple device to actually get your connection is so important. If this was difficult or required complex instructions, game over. It's amazing to know that Starlink have solved this issue where you literally just get it, plug it in, point it at the sky, bam, you're connected.
I wanted to talk about just some of the design concerns that were raised by astronomers. Can you talk about a little bit about how you working with astronomers to alleviate these concerns, or are you working on the design or altering it, or are the concerns overblown? I mean, how do you feel about what has been raised?
I am confident that we will not cause any impact whatsoever in astronomical discoveries.
Okay.
0. That's my prediction.
So you're not launching them?
We'll take corrective action if it's above 0.
I might be hallucinating here, but I kind of get the feeling that Elon's response is a very delicate way of him saying, look guys, we're not going to affect any scientific discovery, but everyone else just get the fuck over it. Sorry, not sorry. Elon actually spends another 2 minutes explaining how SpaceX are taking steps with paint and sunshades to minimize any disturbance to the night sky as their satellites are getting to orbit. But I'll spare you the time. If you want to see that, watch the original.
Recently, Gwen Shotwell in Bloomberg was quoted as saying that you were exploring splitting Starlink from SpaceX. Could you talk a little bit about that, why that would happen, and how you see both of these independent companies functioning, and just talk a little bit about that?
We're thinking about that 0.
We're thinking about that what?
0.
0?
0.
Not thinking about it at all.
We need to make the thing work. It's far from obvious that, I mean, it's real important to just set the stage here for LEO communications constellations. Guess how many LEO constellations didn't go bankrupt? 0.
Right.
0. Iridium's doing okay now, but the Iridium 1 went bankrupt. Orbcom went bankrupt. Globalstar bankrupt. Teledesic bankrupt. Am I leaving anyone out? There's a bunch of others that didn't get very far that also went bankrupt. Anyway, they all went bankrupt.
So you're focusing on making it work first?
Not bankrupt.
Right, and not going to...
That would be a big step. To have like more than 0 in the not bankrupt category.
That was a really funny response from Elon. It just goes to show that even he is aware of how freaking difficult it's going to be to actually pull this off.
How does it work then with the business of SpaceX, since you're like, I mean, you are launching other constellations. Is that an issue? Does that cause a conflict, or?
We're launching other constellations?
Oh, you're launching other satellites.
Oh yeah, sure, whatever, yeah, no problem. Of course.
Right. So there's no like,
We're even giving them a good deal, by the way. Like, no problem. You want to launch constellation on SpaceX? Sounds good to me.
I actually mentioned this point in my Starlink IPO video, which if you haven't seen, I'll put a link in the description and a card above. In that, I explained that if anybody else wants to compete with Starlink and launch their own satellite constellation to provide internet, their options are use a provider with reusable rockets to launch the satellites, or don't even bother because it's not worth it because you can't compete on cost. So for a period of time, until somebody else can solve reusable rockets, if anyone else actually wants to compete directly with Starlink, they're going to need to use SpaceX to launch the satellites. What a brilliant situation.
I mean, I think that, I think there's the world seems to have an insatiable appetite for bandwidth, so we're certainly happy to launch other satellites, and we don't think Starlink is going to destroy all other satellites or something like that, or definitely not.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we just want to be in the not bankrupt category. That's our goal.
And are there other areas that you're looking to get into in terms of commercial space connectivity or satellite services?
No, there's two major new technology programs at SpaceX. That's Starlink and Starship.
This makes understanding SpaceX's progress as a company very simple. There's only two things to be looking at. How's Starship going and how's Starlink going?
And tell us a little bit about the work that's underway, what we can expect in the future for Starship.
Well, we're building a production line. Mm-hmm. Production line is the hard part. Making one of something is at this point, frankly, designing rockets is not that hard. Especially if it's an expendable rocket, it's not really a hard problem. You can literally read books that'll tell you exactly how to do it.
So there you have it, folks. All you need to design your own rockets is to read a few books. I think Elon may have failed to mention the other missing piece of the puzzle there, which is an extraordinarily high IQ.
The hard part is now actually building that thing even once is hard, and then building a production line is 1,000% harder, like at least 1,000% harder.
Yeah.
Maybe more. So just in general, production and manufacturing is underappreciated, I think, especially in the US, frankly. So we should really pay a lot more attention and care a lot more about manufacturing. This is an honest day's work, let me tell you.
Those of you who followed the plight of Tesla for the last few years will know very intimately how difficult it is to ramp products to large-scale production. And this is the challenge now that's faced by SpaceX. They're effectively doing what Tesla did with the Model 3 to make a mass production vehicle, except one of them was an electric vehicle for driving around Earth and the other is a Starship for getting us to Mars. Big challenge. We got some great insights here from Elon, including the potential revenue for SpaceX doing launches, Starlink providing broadband internet, and of course the biggest challenge ahead of SpaceX now, which is ramping Starship production. They're ramping production of a freaking rocket. Oh man, this is insane. We're in the future, guys. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Thanks so much for watching. I'm glad you made it to the end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to help out the channel, you can do so by signing up for a WeBull account using the link in the description. You can get up to 2 free stocks as well.
BS. If you're still watching, you're awesome. This channel has kind of blown up since it launched, and I'm working on making the best possible content for you guys, but it takes time. Consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can continue creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. Either way, the best kind of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.